June 27, 1896, Robillard Building, Montreal, was the first time moving picture films were publicly shown to paying audiences in Canada. In fact, it was the first time in all of North America. The exhibition was staged by France's Lumiere brothers, using their cinematograph invention. Canadians' love affair with professional moving picture films and amateur home movies was born that first night in 1896 Montreal and thrives to this very day. Right from the start, thousands of Canadians soon jumped in to feed the infinite, insatiable hunger for fiction, non-fiction, tourism travelogues, news coverage subjects, and historical places and events, such as the very rich history of Canada's Niagara region. Of great interest to most people were films of Niagara Falls and its power generation, the burgeoning grape and wine industry, and of course, the incredible engineering marvel of the Fourth Welland Canal, hailed around the globe as one of the wonders of the world. Canadian film entrepreneurs became roving filmographers and traveling exhibitors to every small town, village, and hamlet. Investors lined up to hand over their money to produce uncountable millions of feet of Canadian film. Production companies and movie theaters were soon established all across Canada. And today, in celebration of Canada's 150th birthday in 2017, some of those old films are being digitized and put online free of charge for everyone in Canada and around the world to enjoy and learn from and appreciate some of Canada's filmographic achievements. That is the goal of the historically significant old films of Canada's Niagara Region History Project. If you know of any similar old films, professional or amateur home movie, please contact us about it. To quote one of the old Beatles songs, named for an Ontario Provincial Police Sergeant Randall Pepper, we hope you will enjoy the show.
Canadians, we love thee. Now we are 20 million. The scope of the motion picture is tremendous. It brings to us the life of foreign lands and strange peoples. The highlights of current events. History in the making, in war and peace. From the laboratory, the progress of science. Great industries tell their magic story. Modern business uses the screen to teach and to sell. The theater screen gives pleasure and enlightenment to millions every day. In homes all over the land, the smaller movie cameras and projectors give happiness to the entire family. The pictures which we take ourselves perpetuate priceless memories of the changing years. This picture certainly seems to move, but by stopping and starting the action, we see that it is really the result of a series of slightly different pictures passing quickly before the eye, an optical illusion created by our persistence of vision. You can demonstrate this with a card. On one side, a bird. On the other, a cage. Twirl the card and the bird appears to be inside the cage, because your eye holds each image briefly after it has gone. In the infancy of movies, this principle was adapted with paper pictures of progressive action run rapidly on a revolving wheel for an audience of one. Drawings from which animated cartoons are made show us how persistence of vision is applied to the screen. There is no more motion in any one of these drawings than on a postage stamp, but on each one, the action is slightly advanced. If the series is flipped fast enough, the picture seems to move. These pictures are photographed and printed on a long, transparent strip of celluloid film. When run in a projector, they come to life. The essential parts of the projector are a pre-focused light source, easily replaced, an optical system consisting of condensers, adjustable reflector, and a quick focus lens, readily removed for cleaning. And a sturdy film moving mechanism built like a fine watch. Let us look behind the scenes as we greatly slow down the running speed. Normally, this shutter revolves well over 4,000 times a minute. Here, numbers take the place of pictures, so that you can readily follow the film as it moves when the black blade momentarily obscures the light. Part of the shutter blade is now removed, so that you can watch the shuttle tooth at work. Note that the stroke that shifts the film is a cycle of 4 separate, clear-cut movements. Straight in, down, then out, and back up. The shutter revolves 3 times for every picture change, thus cutting down each dark period to less than 5/1000ths of a second. This gives added brilliance and eliminates flicker on the screen. Normally, the film moves very fast, but absolute accuracy assures steadiness of the picture on the screen. This eliminates eye strain. Gradually now, let us bring the speed up to normal, 24 pictures every second. Here we have repeated each number 24 times so you can watch it change. The film moves freely in its channel.
Originally, shutters had a single blade that covered the advancement of the film with an open section that showed the picture. Modern shutters have 3 blades. The first blade covers the film motion. The second 2 blades block the light even when the film is stationary. They only serve to increase the flicker rate. The 3 openings allow the image to be projected half the time. Here I've labeled the 3 blades with 1, 2, and 3 dots. Notice that the shuttle moves downward only when blade number 1 blocks the light. The 3-bladed shutter is a simple and inexpensive solution that works well. The frame rate stays at 24 frames per second, and the flicker rate increases to 72 flickers per second, above the flicker fusion threshold, so the movie appears to move smoothly and without distracting flicker.
It is held steady by side tension. Scratches are thus avoided because there is no pressure on the delicate film surface. The camera used to photograph this picture works very much like the projector, except that the light from the outside reaches the sensitive film through a sharply focused lens. The precision of the camera must be matched by the accuracy of the perforations in the film. These punches produce the sprocket holes that control all film movements through every subsequent mechanism. A steady running camera and accurately punched film make it possible to superimpose two pictures to form a single composite scene. Here's a good example. The actors were photographed in Hollywood. The background, a street scene, was taken in another city. The slightest movement error in either camera would have spoiled the interesting effect. Now let us see what makes the movies talk. The sound is reproduced from a track on the side of the picture. This is a variable density track, one of the two sound systems in general use. And this, a variable area track. Either can be reduced to the smaller 16-millimeter film. Their operation in the sound projector is similar. The film passes through a sharply focused beam of light coming from the exciter lamp. With the volume control, we turn this light up and the sound becomes louder. As the soundtrack of the film passes through the beam, it creates constantly changing light impulses. These are transformed into minute electrical currents by means of a photoelectric cell, then greatly amplified to become audible through the loudspeaker. Let us see how the sound was actually photographed on this film. The recording of my off-screen voice, such as you hear in newsreels, for instance, is done after the picture film is edited. We are testing and getting ready to record. In the recording room, they thread up for a take. My voice will be recorded on this separate negative. The monitor man at the control board modulates the tone and volume of the recording. I am here at the microphone reading from my script against the picture action on the screen. My voice sets in motion air particles which strike the sensitive diaphragm with a sound wave pattern that is transmitted into corresponding electrical vibrations. These are increased in volume thousands of times in the amplifier, for with variable area recording, they must attain sufficient strength to vibrate a tiny mirror, which reflects a ribbon of light through the optical system to create a constantly changing vibration pattern on the sensitive film. My words that have been recorded on the soundtrack appear like this, as I am now speaking to you from the screen. Many of you perhaps never realized that voice and sound can actually be seen. With on-screen sound, the picture and sound negatives are made at the same time, so that the action and voice are exactly matched. In Hollywood, at the Grand National Studios, we see a well-known star in action.
Cut! Fine, great.
Developing of the negative film is done in intricate machines, but the basic principle involved is much the same as the way you develop snapshots in two solutions and wash waters. The picture is then printed. After the print is developed, it is cut and edited. Often from as much as 250,000 feet of exposed film, less than 8,000 feet will be selected to make up the finished picture. Then the picture negative and soundtrack negative are matched and printed together on a single film called the composite print. This is the completed production finished to thrill audiences in theaters all over the world. For smaller projectors, 16-millimeter prints of these same pictures are made from the standard negative on a reduction printer. Because these smaller prints are less than 1/4 the area of the standard film, extreme accuracy is absolutely necessary for good results. Here is a 10-reel feature production on 35-millimeter film, which when reduced to 16-millimeter gives us an equal amount of picture with less bulk, less weight, and absolute safety from fire hazard. You can now buy or rent hundreds of these motion pictures, silent or with sound, educational subjects to Hollywood features. It is possible for anyone to show motion pictures anywhere, anytime, because we have efficient 16-millimeter projectors meeting every owner and audience requirement. The magic picture that moves and talks now comes to your screen at your command.
Hi there, I'm Kerry Decker, and we're going to take a look at the Kodak Brownie.
For big, clear, colorful, low-cost movies, you can get a Brownie movie camera for only $32.50 or as little as $3.50 down.
It was in 1951 that Kodak first introduced this movie camera. 1955 that Kodak introduced the turret model, the turret with the 3 lenses, which was wide angle, the normal, and a telephoto lens. Now let's take a little closer look at it, and I'll show you some of the features and how the camera loads. Now to open it, you had to actually push it in and slide it over, and then the camera would open up. And there you go, and there is your 8/8 film, which was inside. Okay, here is a roll of 8/8mm Kodachrome color movie film. Here is a roll of the film that goes in the camera. Now I was going to say 8mm, but actually it's 16mm film. Same thing that was used in the more professional cameras, but it has twice as many perforations. In other words, 8mm perforations. Okay, so what happened? Remember that lens was offset? All right, what would happen is that it would take pictures down the left-hand, we'll say the left-hand side of the film. All right, I'm just going to draw some lines here. All righty. And that's what would happen. It would take your movies all the way down one side of the film. All right, and then the film would be on the bottom reel. All right, and then you would have to, remember you used to switch and turn over the reels to shoot the second half. I used to think it was the front and the back, but it's not. It just shot them down one side like that. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to turn the film around, because remember we're going to turn the reels around. Okay, had to wrestle that around a little bit. All right, see now we got the picture down the other side. I flipped over the reel. All righty, and now, the camera lens is still in the same position, so now it's taking film, or your pictures, down the other side of the film, just like this, taking pictures, 16 frames per second, by the way. All right, and now you've got your film, your pictures, on both sides of the film, left and right. When you sent your film in for developing, they would develop the whole roll, and at the very end, they would slit the film up the middle. So now you have 2 8mm strips of film, and they would splice the 2 strips together, and lo and behold, you would now have 50 feet of 8mm film. All right, let me load the camera. Okay. All right, I've got the camera loaded. All right, it's running properly. And so now we're all set to go, and we can put the side of the camera back on again, and we're ready to go, and slide that button over. All right, and we are ready to go and starting to shoot for side 1. On the top is a folding viewfinder, all right, so you could carry it around and everything, and then when you're ready to shoot, you would just pop this thing up. They didn't give you much for an eyepiece back there. You had to look into this little hole, but hey, it worked. And on the front here, of course, is when you put it up to your eye, you would look through this large frame. Now you'll notice that there's 2 little teeth that are sticking out into the viewfinder, and this one over here is the one that you used if you were going to use just normal shooting, anything from about 3 or 4 feet and beyond. You would look through there and arrange your pictures from that spot on down. Now there's a thing called parallax, which means when you're looking through your lens here and the camera sees a slightly lower angle than what you're looking at, and the closer you get with a camera, this parallax becomes more into effect. And you'll notice many of the home movies always had people's heads chopped off because they were just using the whole viewfinder all the time. But Kodak helped you out a little bit. They had a second notch which was placed down lower. So if you were down around 2 or 3 feet away from the subject, this would be the top part of your frame. In other words, like you could, if you cut it off like that, and that would be a little bit more accurate in the difference between your lens and your viewfinder, called parallax. So there was a 2-foot setting and a 4-foot setting. So you always had to make sure you use that. On the side here is the aperture. And this is very important because this would help you set what the brightness is. And they had all of the cloudy bright and the sunny and the open shade and everything. And you turn this wheel and there was a series of holes that gradually got larger and larger that would let more light in the darker it got, just the way your eye works. And they also had, believe it or not, like what we call filter factors in there also. That's what that other little line is for, because you could put a variety of different filters on this camera. If you wanted to take, they had indoor film and outdoor film, and if you wanted to switch them between the two, shoot outdoor film indoors and indoor film outdoors, there was a filter to color correct the image and everything that you could use. And this is a key wound camera, which would give you, I don't know, it was like 30 seconds or so of filming time. And I used to kind of do it that way, and it folds back against the handle, and of course would give you some good shooting. Okay, alrighty, now we finished shooting the film, alright, and we're going to shoot the other half of the film. Now you notice there's all the film that's on the take-up reel, alrighty, and the plastic reel, what was the take-up reel, alright, it's got the painting on it and tells you that you have to flip it over before you use it, alright, that's what we're going to do. We're going to flip the reel over, and now this becomes your main supply of film, because we're going to shoot down the side of the film again. So we're going to load it back up again, make sure we have the loop. I mean, look at that, I can even do it backwards. And I mean, these things were very, very simple to operate. There you go, I got the proper loop in there and everything. Now we're going to shoot the second half of the film. Okay, well, now the film is back onto your original camera spool again. Alright, we shot it all the way through. There we go, the film is on the reel. Now that's ready to be sent back to Kodak or whatever for developing. Alright, you went through the camera twice, it goes back on the original reel. And then guess what, that old take-up reel that you have, alright, that comes off. Alright, flip it over again and put it back on the bottom reel, ready to go, and start all over again. There is a little geared wheel right down here, and you turn that to reset your footage counter. So every time you start it off and before you close the door, you move that back to 0, and you would start off and do another roll of film again. So there you go, to put it back on, and your camera is ready to go for another exciting 8mm film adventure.
To create the illusion of movement, a series of still images, the film, is pulled off the supply reel, threaded in between the lamp and lens so the image can be projected, then run across the sound drum, and finally coiled onto the take-up reel.
Well, there it is. There's a close-up look at one of my favorite old-time movie cameras, the Kodak Brownie. And I enjoyed that camera, and until I bought others into the mid-60s, this served me very, very well. And it's one of the cameras that I've held on to, and it still works even to this day, nearly 50 years later. So I hope that you've have enjoyed the look back at this old camera. So this is Kerry Decker, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time, we'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye now.
You've undoubtedly heard about Super 8, the dramatically improved 8mm film format.
Here, try it. See how easy it is.
Drop another one in, you're all set.
Even if you've never snapped a picture before, you'll make exciting movies indoors or out.
To load it, you drop in the film and click it shut. See?
Super 8 film gives you 50% more picture area than regular 8mm for bigger, sharper movies on your screen.
The projectionist gives the signal and the curtains are closed. The assistant turns out the light, and the show has begun.
Why not make your family movie stars?
Here's a reel of home movies. Suppose these were your movies. That'd be worth a fortune, wouldn't it?
Oh, yes.